them pay for what they do, and making it so expensive in their operation, and making so many changes that he goes broke. He can't do it. How you win is one at a time. He goes out of business, he dies, you wait him out, but you win. Unquote. This does reflect the Agenda 21 mentality. It is the program for the 21st agenda. The goal is to tie up the wildland areas as early in this century as they can. They are ahead of schedule. The Y2Y and the Wildlands Project are coming into being on the backs of landowners throughout America. Now, I have introduced how anti-American values, including the disrespect for private property, come in through environmental programs. Now I would like to give an example of how Agenda 21 Sustainable Development programs come in through the business angle. This is a recent Associated Press notice about Avista, which joined the lobby to limit greenhouse gases. Today is the day that Avista needs to change course. But what the Associated Press reports is that Spokane-based utility Avista Corporation has joined 19 other companies in a lobbying group to back federal cap-and-trade legislation, which would limit carbon emissions and other greenhouse gases. They need to have Dr. Berry as their consultant on this issue. Your utility has bought into the global warming fraud. They plan to institutionalize this fraud via the cap-and-trade legislation that they support. Now, California's Pacific Gas and Electric participated in the Agenda 21 Rio Summit Conference in Rio in 1992. They are active supporters of sustainability. Let me tell you what happens when your power company becomes an active supporter of sustainability. In order to reduce electric usage in California, our rates were escalated dramatically. Usage dropped significantly. Well, PG&E has said because of lesser usage, they've now got to raise the rates again. It is an endless cycle because the goal of sustainable development is to create a shortage in order to cause the crisis so that they can implement their predetermined solutions. And in the case of power, the solution is higher prices, less heat, and less financial security for the American people. In this next website, the Idaho Smart Growth, we learned that this organization's vision includes to provide a variety of transportation choices. If you look closely at the header, you can see passing by occasionally the new transportation choices that we're going to have. There comes the bicycle, and next will come, how did that happen? You'll see the bus rolling by. You see the transportation alternatives are walking, bicycling, or public transportation. The attack on the auto is gotten intense. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's right here. Your options will be public transit or bikes. Second, the Idaho Smart Growth, which is typical of smart growth organizations which exist everywhere, it calls for mixed land uses. What that means is that residential units are to be built on top of business so that the resident on the 23rd floor can come down to the bottom and get their groceries, go out the building and walk a block away and watch a movie or get their other needed items. The smart growth visionaries say that human mobility is to be restricted so that human action can be more readily controlled. This is the purpose of urban renewal. This is the purpose of the urban design programs. This is the overriding policy objective of smart growth legislation. Smart growth legislation now exists in every community in America. Spokane, I must say, is a leader. It is to create a range of housing choices. What that really means is they want to take federal money. My county has a $300 million grant to build the first 3,000 smart growth housing units along a rail line bordering the coast. These are stack 'em and pack 'em housings. They're not talking about a range of houses to include suburbia. In fact, in 1992, the head of the Rio Conference, in his speech, a man named Maurice Strong with the United Nations, said that suburban housing was unsustainable. And clearly enough, under the Agenda 21 protocol, that is the case. So these housing choices they're talking about is whether or not you live on the second floor or the 40th floor of a smart growth housing development. And it's to create walkable communities. I've talked about that. You're supposed to be out of your car and walk to whatever it is you need. And that's why our downtowns are being reconstructed along this model. Now, this new urban design will put regular people into narrow zones for living. Under the Agenda 21 protocol, the purpose for this is so that human beings and their actions can be monitored. Your elected officials and top bureaucracy officials are the primary target audience of these globalist programs, including the urban redesign necessary to control people. Our problem, your problem, is that the officials are going along. Remember, sustainable development is the code word for totalitarian world government. Many people engaged in the sustainable development action plans understand that. And many of the others, as Vladimir Lenin said about Soviet bureaucrats in the 1920s, many of the others are simply useful idiots and do not understand the philosophy that they are promoting. Another angle that you need to be aware of is the University of Montana's infiltration of model United Nations clubs into high school campuses in that state and across Idaho. How many people are familiar with the model United Nations clubs that are popping up in high schools all across the country? Can I see hands, people who know about this? Well, we should all be concerned because our children are being thrust with this stuff. In my local high school, the social science teachers have taken me on to argue that there is no difference between the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights and the American Declaration of Independence. This is typical of social science teachers across the country because if there was one teacher in a school that understood the difference between those two declarations, they would not stand for a moment for a model UN club to be allowed on their campus. And yet I know of no high school in this country where a single teacher has taken that exception to model UN clubs that have popped up all across America. It is no wonder that a recent poller, taking a poll of graduates of high school and graduates of college just last year, found that over 50% of recent graduates considered themselves global citizens before they found themselves to be American citizens. You see, the high school programs are working, but we, living in high school districts, aren't taking the action necessary to rid our schools of model UN clubs.